October 2024, a stranger wanders into a remote Montana campsite looking for a place to sleep. The camper offers him a beer. By morning, only one of them is alive, and the injuries are so savage that the first person on scene calls 911 to report a bear attack. These are the most disturbing camping murders caught on camera. Moab, Utah, August 2021. A newlywed couple heads out for a night of drinks and laughter, never knowing a camera is capturing their final hours. 5 days later, their bodies are found near a remote campsite in the La Salle Mountains. Kylan Schulte was 24. Crystal Turner was 38. They'd gotten married that April, living a free-spirited life out of a converted van, moving between campsites in the Utah wilderness. Friends described them as inseparable, madly in love, and tough as nails. On the night of Friday, August 13th, the couple stopped by Woody's Tavern in Moab. Surveillance footage caught what would have become their last public moments alive. They were relaxed, they were happy, but they were also worried. At some point that night, Kylan and Crystal pulled their friend Kayla Borza aside. They mentioned a creep who'd been camping near them in the mountains. Someone who made their skin crawl. They said they were planning to move their campsite. Neither of them gave more details about the stranger. They finished their drinks, left around 9 p.m., and headed back into the wilderness. No one saw them alive again. When both women failed to show up for work the following week, Kylan at the Moonflower Community Cooperative, Crystal at her job, panic set in. Kylan's father, Sean Paul, begged Moab authorities to search harder. Days passed with no answers. That's when family friend Cindy Sue Hunter decided she couldn't wait any longer. Hunter set out at dawn, photos of the couple in hand. She drove the back roads for hours. Then, on Lake Warner Road, a flash of silver through the trees caught her eye. She turned down a hidden side road and found their Kia. Their pet rabbit was still in its cage under a nearby tree. The tent was empty. Then, next to a pile of dirt by the car, she found Kylan's body. Crystal's body was discovered moments later by responding officers. Both women had been shot to death. For over a year, the case went cold. The small town of Moab lived in fear. Was the killer still out there? Was he watching? Then in 2023, investigators finally had their answer. The creep wasn't a stranger at all.
The bodies of newlyweds Crystal Turner and Kylan Schulte found shot dead near a campsite in Moab on August 18, 2021. The case is now closed, but the killer police are identifying is dead.
His name was Adam Pinkusiewicz. He'd worked alongside Crystal at a local McDonald's, known for aggressive behavior. And according to Kylan's father, his suspicious behavior started the moment the murders happened.
The guy that worked with the girls at McDonald's. The one who never came back for his last paycheck.
Pinkusiewicz had abruptly quit his job right after the killings, never even returning for his final paycheck. He fled Moab for Iowa, and before police could close in, he took his own life. But the evidence he left behind told the full story. Detectives dug into his phone and uncovered chilling digital forensics.
Campsite, setting up his things uncomfortably close to them while they were camping. The couple called him creepy camper to their friends, not recognizing who it was. Police say he deleted all photos of himself in Moab during that time off of his phone.
He'd scrubbed his phone of any photos placing him in Moab. But forensics recovered search histories for the exact type of bullets used in the murders, disturbing memos hinting at homicidal urges, and he'd confessed the killings to a significant other before his death. He would never see a courtroom, but detectives were certain the case was airtight.
Investigators say the murderer is Adam Pinkowitz, a former co-worker of Turner's who was known to be aggressive to some and homophobic towards the newlyweds' relationship. Kylan's father was told Pinkowitz was the likely killer back in May.
For Kylan's father, the announcement brought something he thought he'd never feel again.
I do not have to face him. He's already been sentenced. He's already in hell, and our work's done. Yes.
Kylan and Crystal trusted their instincts. They told people about the creep. They planned to move, but they never got the chance. Their love, their laughter, and their final moments live on in that grainy tavern footage, a tragic archive of 2 lives stolen far too soon. Memorial Day weekend 2025. 2 high school seniors head into the Arizona wilderness for a camping trip. They never come home.
We have more on the 2 high schoolers who were brutally shot to death while on a camping trip. New video of the suspect has surfaced showing him firing a semi-automatic gun he made himself in his workshop.
Pandora Kolsrud, 18. Evan Clark, 17. Best friends from Arcadia High School in Phoenix. They drove out to Mount Ord in the Tonto National Forest, a remote spot off State Route 87. Beautiful country. The kind of place you go to disconnect from the world. Their parents expected them back on May 26th. When they didn't show, one of the mothers checked the Life 360 app. The last ping came from near the top of Mount Ord. Then nothing. Gila County deputies found their Mercedes-Benz first, hidden between trees and brush. One door unlocked, inside a bloody pillowcase. Then came the drag marks. Deputies followed the trail for nearly 1.5 miles. Past a fence line, into the brush. That's where they found Pandora and Evan. Both had been shot multiple times. Their bodies had been dragged and hidden. Someone didn't want them found.
When she went home, he told cops he spent his day flying his drone around the mountain. After the bodies of the teenagers were found, investigators say Brown called the police helpline.
Solving this case seemed nearly impossible. Mount Ord is about as remote as it gets. No ring cameras, no cell towers, no surveillance footage, just wilderness. But tips started coming in. 5 campers reported encountering a strange man on the mountain that same weekend. He was driving a blue Kai, a Rio. And then something curious happened. The killer called the police himself.
After the bodies of the teenagers were found, investigators say Brown called the police helpline to say he'd seen the campers and stumbled across their campsite but had not spoken to them.
31-year-old Thomas Brown contacted investigators claiming he'd been camping on Mount Ord that same weekend. He even offered to share drone footage he'd taken. He told police he'd come across 2 young people near a campsite with a silver SUV. He admitted rummaging through their camping gear and picking up an air rifle. But he insisted he never had physical contact with them. What Brown didn't know was that investigators had already collected DNA from bloody gloves found near the victim's vehicle.
But had not spoken to them. But detectives say his DNA was found at the crime scene.
August 4th, 2025. The DNA results came back. Thomas Brown was a match. His genetic material was found on the victims' bodies, inside their vehicle, on those bloody gloves. Every piece of evidence he said would never connect to him pointed directly at him. Investigators discovered something chilling about Brown. He ran a YouTube channel documenting his hobby of building custom firearms, including 3D printed components that are nearly impossible to trace.
It's chilling video of the accused killer charged with the shooting deaths of 2 high school kids while they were camping.
Brown had served 9 years in the Arizona National Guard, reaching the rank of staff sergeant before leaving in 2022. He'd deployed to Djibouti, and just weeks before the murders, he'd posted on Facebook about being unable to get a VA psychiatric appointment for over 6 months.
He was actively 3D printing these military rifle accessories. So yeah, did that become part of the murder weapon here? That becomes a whole nother set of an investigation because you can't track things like that as you can a gun.
His wife had been camping with him that weekend, but she left the morning of May 25th, leaving Brown alone on that mountain when Pandora and Evan were killed. At his booking, Brown's demeanor was described as ice cold, no emotion, just a blank stare.
Brown's eerie, emotionless demeanor and ice-cold gaze as he's booked for first-degree murder is sparking comparisons with Brian Kohberger, the notorious killer of the 4 Idaho college kids.
Brown pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder. He's being held on a $2 million cash bond. His trial is scheduled for June 2026. The mothers of both victims have spoken publicly about their grief. Lisa Clark returned to the place where her son died.
This is where I lost my boy. They died alone in this forest.
She says she had a bad feeling about the trip and pleaded with him to change his plans.
Pandora's mother, Simone Kolsrud, refused to let the tragedy define her daughter's memory.
And the darkness that she encountered on that day, when she met her killer, will not define her life.
To this day, investigators have found no connection between Brown and his victims. No argument, no prior contact, nothing that explains why 2 teenagers enjoying a camping trip in the Arizona wilderness became targets of a random act of violence. 2 teenagers, 1 camping trip. A place meant for peace became their final resting place. And the man who allegedly killed them? He called the police himself, thinking he could outsmart the investigation. DNA doesn't lie. December 12, 2021. A remote hunting cabin in Venango County, Pennsylvania. Peter Spencer, a 29-year-old Jamaican immigrant, is found dead in the front yard. 9 gunshot wounds. And he was the only black man there, surrounded by 4 white men. Spencer had been invited to the camp by a former co-worker, Nathan Meyer. For Peter, it was supposed to be exactly the kind of getaway he loved.
An outdoorsman, and he loved nature. He loved being in nature. He loved being among the animals in nature. So this is something that he would regularly do. It's exactly why he would have been out there.
He was an outdoorsman. Nature, animals, quiet trails along the Allegheny River. That's who Peter was. So when a friend offered up a weekend at a secluded cabin, accepting wasn't out of character. It was routine. But this trip was anything but peaceful.
First time Action News Investigates will take you to the place where Jamaican immigrant Peter Spencer was shot 9 times until he stopped breathing.
9 shots until he stopped breathing. And when police arrived, what they found only deepened the mystery. Multiple guns, drugs, and 4 men with a story to tell. Authorities detained and questioned all 4. One, a 25-year-old white man, was openly called a suspect. And then, something that left Peter's family in disbelief.
Police say they found multiple guns and drugs at the scene. Police detained and questioned 4 people, including a 25-year-old white man they called a suspect.
All 4 walked free. No charges, no arrests, nothing. The decision sparked international outrage. Black leaders in Pittsburgh organized protests. Clergy members from across the country demanded justice. Voices from Jamaica to Pennsylvania asked the same question. How does a man get shot 9 times in front of 4 witnesses and nobody faces charges? The camp itself is so remote it doesn't even appear on standard maps. Reporter Paul Van Osdol had to track down property records with latitude and longitude coordinates just to find it. And what he discovered on site raised even more chilling questions. A sign on the front door warned visitors, "You're on camera, look up." A surveillance camera sat tucked in the second-floor window, angled directly at the front yard, the exact spot where Peter Spencer died.
Referring to a surveillance camera in the second-floor window. Now, it's possible that any video from that camera could be very useful to police, especially considering the fact that Spencer's body was found shot to death.
If that camera was recording, it could show everything. Every second, every shot, every decision made that night. But the Venango County District Attorney wouldn't confirm whether any footage existed or whether investigators even had it. For the Spencer family's attorney, Paul Jubas, the silence was deafening.
This just adds another layer of mystery onto why law enforcement is handling this investigation in such a shadowy way.
And then there was the other sign. On the garage next to the cabin, bold letters paired with the image of a handgun. "We don't call 911. A message that seemed to speak louder than anything police were willing to say.
Absolutely. This crime scene is dripping with criminal liability.
Multiple firearms, drugs, a delayed response, a dead man with 9 bullet wounds, and no one held accountable. Action News Investigates visited Nathan Meyer's family home in Mercer, Pennsylvania. His grandmother answered the door, declined an interview, and promised to pass along contact information. Nathan never responded. Weeks turned into months. A second autopsy was conducted. Pennsylvania State Police's Heritage Affairs Team, a unit that investigates potential bias crimes, eventually joined the case. But for Peter Spencer's family, the snowy yard in Venango County still holds more questions than answers. A man who loved nature, a friend's invitation, a camera that may have recorded everything, and 4 men who walked away from a crime scene that, in the words of the family's own attorney, was dripping with liability. Peter Spencer went camping. He never came home. June 22, 2018, Malibu Creek State Park. 35-year-old Tristan Beaudet is asleep in a tent with his 2 little girls, ages 2 and 4. His wife's home studying for an exam. Around 4:30 a.m., a single gunshot cracks through the campground. Tristan never wakes up.
The Southern California campground where Tristan Beaudet was mysteriously killed is now closed indefinitely. He was shot before dawn last Friday while camping with his 2 young daughters.
Tristan wasn't just any camper. He was a brilliant pharmaceutical chemist, a devoted father, and a husband who married his high school sweetheart, Erica. The family was days away from moving to the Bay Area for a new job, a fresh chapter. Instead, his daughters woke up next to their father's body. His stepfather later described the scene in words no grandparent should ever have to say.
There was a lot of blood when they woke up with the loud noise.
Rauda appearing in court Monday for his arraignment, hiding from cameras.
Investigators swarmed the campsite at sunrise. 2 holes were found, punched through the tent fabric. The girls were physically unharmed, but they'd been inches away. Inches! The park was locked down immediately.
Good morning. An expert we spoke with says detectives here are looking at every possible scenario to find out why Tristan Beaudet was shot, and now they're asking for the public's help.
And almost immediately, a chilling pattern started to surface. Because Tristan wasn't the first. Not even close. Since 2016, hikers, campers, and drivers in and around Malibu Creek had been quietly picked off by an unseen shooter. At least 7 incidents, 7 warnings. And the public? Never told.
I just woke up to a stinging pain in my arm. I felt the cold breeze on my arm through the hammock, which was weird.
A woman found a bullet hole in her car door after a strange noise in the night. Rounds fired at a driver heading to a movie set just days before Tristan was killed.
At first I thought someone put a sticker on my car. Then my boyfriend walked around and he was like, "That's a bullet hole."
Local reporter C.C. Woods started connecting the dots the sheriff's department wouldn't. 2 detectives who tried to sound the alarm internally were reportedly silenced. Families kept hiking those trails, kept pitching tents under those same stars. Completely unaware a sniper had been hunting that canyon for 2 years. Forensic expert Mary Ellen O'Toole didn't mince words about what Malibu was dealing with.
They have an active shooter out there.
Mary Ellen O'Toole is director of the Forensic Science Program at George Mason University.
Then, 4 months after Tristan's murder, a break. Deputies spotted a man creeping along a ridgeline near the park. Dressed head to toe in black tactical gear, mask on, rifle slung across his back. His name was Anthony Rauda, 42 years old, a survivalist with a long rap sheet, living off stolen food in the hills, sleeping in the brush, like a ghost. Ballistics matched his rifle to the shootings. Surveillance footage tied him to a string of burglaries. The press gave him a name that stuck, the Malibu Sniper. Rauda was charged with murder, 10 counts of attempted murder, and 5 counts of burglary. In court, he appeared in a spit mask, silent and unreadable. A jury eventually convicted him of second-degree murder in Tristan's death, plus attempted murder of both daughters. Rauda was sentenced to 119 years to life. But for Tristan's widow, Erica, justice and closure aren't the same thing. She filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the state and county, arguing that if officials had simply warned the public about the earlier shootings, her husband would still be alive. The case was dismissed under sovereign immunity. 2 little girls grew up without their dad. A family lost the future they'd spent years building. And the tragedy is, someone knew the danger was there. They just didn't tell anyone. Tristan Beaudet went camping with his daughters and never came home. And a quiet campground, once a backdrop for Hollywood classics, became the setting for one of California's most haunting unsolved-turned-solved murders. October 2024. A friend drives out to a remote campsite near Big Sky, Montana, expecting to meet up with Dustin Chersom. Instead, he finds something so brutal, so savage, he calls 911 and reports a bear attack.
We're getting new details on the investigation into the gruesome killing of a Montana camper. Police initially thought this was a bear attack, but they now say it was murder. And there's been an arrest.
Dustin Chersom was 35 years old, a construction contractor, a father, the kind of guy who hung every single piece of art his kids made on the walls of his house like they'd painted masterpieces. His sister would later say he could have framed your house, poured your foundation, installed your countertops. He was good with his hands, and even better with the people around him. October 10th, Dustin drove out to the Moose Creek area, a remote stretch of forest just north of Big Sky. He set up a wall tent with a wood stove, beds, lamps, everything you'd need for a comfortable weekend in the woods. He was planning to meet up with his girlfriend the next evening. He never made that meeting.
When Dustin Chersom was brutally attacked and killed at a Montana campsite earlier this month, friends who found him thought he'd been mauled by a bear. But as investigators combed the crime scene, they say the evidence suggested murder.
When his girlfriend arrived Saturday morning after he failed to pick her up or answer any texts, she found him dead inside him, the tent. The injuries were so extreme, so catastrophic, that a bear attack seemed like the only logical explanation. Multiple chop wounds to the skull, neck, and face. Damage that didn't look human. But Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks sent an agent out, someone with specific expertise in bear attacks. And they found nothing. No bear fur, no tracks, no biological evidence of any animal. This wasn't nature. This was a person. The investigation shifted immediately to homicide, and detectives started combing through the campsite for anything the killer might have left behind. That's when they noticed something small but critical. Beer cans inside Dustin's tent. 3 of them, and 2 shot glasses, each with a slice of lime. Somebody had been drinking with Dustin before he died. Investigators sent the DNA from those cans to the Montana State Crime Lab, and what came back cracked the case wide open.
The detectives collected DNA from a beer can inside of Chersom's tent and sent it to the Montana State Crime Lab.
The DNA matched a man named Darren Christopher Abbey, 41 years old, living in Basin, Montana, working in the Big Sky area, out on parole at the time. His criminal history included a prior conviction for malicious harassment, a hate crime in North Idaho. He had swastika and SS lightning bolt tattoos covering his body. His twin brother was already in prison, which left only one possible match. But here's what makes this case so haunting. There was no connection between Dustin and Abbey, none.
This individual confessed to the murder of Dustin Chersom.
Investigators don't have a motive. They say it was a chance encounter while the suspect was looking for a place to camp for the night.
A chance encounter. Dustin saw a stranger looking for a place to camp and did what he always did. He welcomed him, offered him a beer, and that act of kindness cost him his life. Abbey claimed self-defense, but his story kept changing. First it was a block of firewood, then a screwdriver, then the blunt side of an axe. The escalation alone dismantled any claim of defending himself, and there wasn't a single defensive wound on Abbey's body. It wasn't a scuffle, it was a sequence. A calculated chain of violence that no reasonable person could call defense. After the murder, Abbey didn't run. He calculated. He washed the weapons in a creek, burned his shoes in a wood stove, took coolers, guns, and anything he thought had his fingerprints on it. He even went back the next day for a hat he'd left behind. stole binoculars and a headlamp from Dustin's truck while the body was still inside the tent.
The sheriff's department also noted several items, including an axe, shotgun, revolver, and cooler, were missing from the scene.
This individual removed items from the campsite he believed had evidence that could tie him to the crime. This is the behavior of a guilty subject who thought they could get away with murder.
Abby was charged with deliberate homicide and tampering with evidence. Bail was set at $1.5 million. He was eventually found guilty. But for Dustin's family, no verdict could fill the void. His sister Jillian stepped to the podium at the press conference, and what she said captured everything.
We lost our brother, our son, our uncle, our best friends, and our dad in the most unimaginable way.
Dustin Shearsom did everything right. He was prepared. He was generous. He welcomed someone in from the cold, and it cost him his life. A chance encounter on a quiet night in the Montana woods, and a good man never came home. October 17th, 2003, a young Scottsdale couple heads north for a romantic night under the stars. They never come home. 19-year-old Lisa Guerrieri and 20-year-old Brandon Rumbaugh were celebrating their one-year anniversary. The plan was simple: drive up Interstate 17, pull off near Bumblebee Road, and camp out in the bed of a borrowed Ford F-150. Lisa even asked her Uncle Mike not to tell her mom where they were going. She didn't want her to worry.
Brandon and Lisa were going away for their one-year anniversary. They didn't have the money to do anything else.
Because they were going to go to Disneyland.
Lisa worked at Salt River Project and played in her church band. Brandon was a personal trainer and a student at Arizona State. By every account, Lisa was the kind of person who lit up a room the second she walked in.
Oh, she was incredible. She was one of those girls that literally could walk in a room, you could be upset, ticked off, and you couldn't help but smile.
But Bumblebee Road had a reputation. A desolate stretch of high desert, miles from anywhere, known to locals as a place where trouble liked to hide.
There's a lot of people out there partying. There's people out there with guns.
Lisa's mom, Paula, spoke to her one last time during the drive up. A quick check-in, and I love you. That was the last time she ever heard her daughter's voice. When Saturday morning came and no one had heard from the couple, Paula knew. Call it a mother's instinct. Something was wrong. Brandon didn't show up for work either. Friends piled into cars and started driving north on I-17, getting off at every exit, searching any road that looked familiar. Eventually, they made their way down Bumblebee Road. That's when they spotted the truck. What they found in the bed of that pickup would haunt them forever. Lisa and Brandon, still in their sleeping bags, each shot multiple times in the head with a .25 caliber handgun.
An hour ahead of anybody. And I was told to keep it to myself that they found the truck. Lisa is in the back of it. She is dead.
Investigators quickly ruled out a murder-suicide. There was no weapon at the scene, no signs of a struggle beforehand.
Well, there was no weapon at the scene, and there's no indications that they would do something like that.
Were they shot multiple times?
Yes.
Both of them?
Yes.
Where were they shot?
In the head and torso.
Detectives believe the couple was either asleep or getting ready to sleep when someone ambushed them in the dark. Forensic evidence suggested Lisa may have woken up during the attack. A horrifying thought. Her final moments spent realizing what was happening to the person beside her.
We believe that they had probably been asleep or were getting ready to go to sleep when they were attacked. There's evidence that Lisa probably woke up at some point.
2 items were missing from the scene: Lisa's keys and a video camera they'd borrowed from Paula to film the stars that night. Detectives know the make, the model, even the serial number. It's never been recovered.
So they took it, and we never located that thing. So we found the camera case, but we never found a video camera.
And you know what kind of camera it was?
Yeah, it was a VHS camera, and we know everything about it, even the serial number.
But the killer made one mistake. A disposable camera, purchased at a Scottsdale grocery store the day they left, was left behind at the scene. When detectives developed the film, they found the last photographs ever taken of Lisa and Brandon. 2 solo shots of each of them, smiling in the bed of that truck, and one overexposed frame, believed to have been snapped as the camera was thrown during the attack.
Purchased while they were on their way up there. They purchased at a grocery store in the Scottsdale area the day that they left. We were able to recover some of the photos off of that camera.
For more than 20 years, the case has split in two directions. Lisa's family has always believed the killer was someone the couple knew, someone close. Her Uncle Mike has named a person of interest he's convinced is tied to the crime. Detectives, however, have explored a darker possibility. 6 months after the murders, a similar crime happened in the area. 2 men shot, their truck stolen. The suspect killed himself before police could question him.
But then I heard he moved from there.
So you don't know where he is?
I don't know where he's at. But I don't believe anyone would have gotten a little polygraph and said, oh, well, you're not involved.
Today, investigators are pinning their hopes on genetic genealogy. DNA from the scene is being run through modern databases, the same technology that cracked the Golden State Killer case. And through it all, a mother waits.
I want to remember my daughter, and I want her back. I want her back so badly.
Yavapai's silent witness is offering up to $10,000 for information leading to an arrest. Somewhere out there, someone knows what happened on Bumblebee Road. And until they speak, Lisa and Brandon's story remains unfinished, frozen beneath the Arizona stars they went there to see.